What we're going to talk to you, Samir, today is about the journey which has happened in the mutual fund industry, especially in the decade prior to 2005. While there were a lot of foreign funds which came in, there was a movie also which got released, Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. And I think that touched into the Indian psyche, the cultural mirror, if you will, wherein we're talking about global ambitions yet staying closer to the roots. Yeah. So I couldn't think of a better person. Not that I'm saying Shah Rukh Khan.
Hey, I don't mind.
So Shah Rukh Khan, you are the Shah Rukh Khan.
From the foreign fund that taught India to think global to the market that taught the world how India grows, he saw the madness, the method, and the making of modern investing. This is MF Chronicles with Samir Arora.
So in 1997, when the Asian crisis hit the world, if you will, especially Asia, so this was a very different type of crisis, and it was more or less imported to India.
We have had many such crises. We had the May 98 when US put sanctions on India because of our nuclear test and all that. So before that is before the crisis, also India was not outperforming great. The formula in those days was to ignore all the companies that were in the index, because they were these old companies fighting liberalization and opening up, and buy the new themes. The new themes were IT, this HDFC Bank type thing, which got listed, I think, 95, then Z type.
Then, of course, you talked about 99, we talked about launching new funds, and then the dot-com thing happened.
There was a very nearly depressing period after 2000 till 2002. One guy at Cricket Club CCI, तो कहता है खड़े होके कि I invested in your fund in March 2000. What will you do for me? I said, I will pray for you.
Welcome to MF Chronicles. It's indeed a pleasure today to host Mr. Samir Arora. I would, under normal circumstances, introduce our guest, but if I have to, then he won't be Samir Arora. This is the Samir Arora, which we keep hearing about, talking about, and he's graced the podium of MF Chronicles. What we're going to talk to you, Samir, today is about the journey which has happened in the mutual fund industry, especially in the decade prior to 2005. I think the SEBI regulations came in 1993. There were a lot of new mutual fund applications which came in. Coincidentally, in that period, 93 to 95, while there were a lot of foreign funds which came in, there was a movie also which got released, Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. And I think that touched into the Indian psyche, the cultural mirror, if you will, wherein we're talking about global ambitions yet staying closer to the roots. Yeah. So I couldn't think of a better person. Not that I'm saying Shah Rukh Khan.
Hey, I don't mind.
So Shah Rukh Khan, you are the Shah Rukh Khan. Okay. But when you entered the country in 1993, you were the first employee of Alliance Capital. And in the backdrop, there were massive companies like Morgan Stanley, which had come in. And
around the same time.
Around the same time. And of course, there was this whole hype around Morgan Stanley, and then what happened after that. Take us through what was in your mind when you came to India. You had already started seeing India from a global lens. You had come to India as the first employer of Alliance Capital. What was the Indian landscape then?
So the thought was never so deep. So what happened was, I used to work in Alliance Capital in New York, and I was an Australia, New Zealand, Japan analyst. But then India opened up. So I joined them on June 1, 1991, and the Indian reform started in July 1991. Prior to that, when I joined them, there was no India in their plans and not in my plans. I had gone to US to study to be able to work there, get a green card or whatever. So when Indian market opened up, since I was the new Indian hire, and the market is open, they said you can cover India also, but there was nothing to be done. Previously, there was this, you can take approval from Government of India and do closed-end funds from Finance Ministry or somebody. So that was of interest to Alliance. And coincidentally, they had this strategy of opening domestic asset management companies in different emerging markets to raise local money, manage local. But Alliance, you can say, why did they choose India specifically? Because they were doing it in different markets, and plus minus, maybe they did a few after India, but in a few years they had them in Poland, Brazil, South Africa, Korea, Taiwan, and India, and maybe a few others in Europe, Eastern Europe. So it was their strategy, and so India was one more. Except that India turned out to be their number one most successful bet, because India, we became the biggest AMC among all these Morgan Stanleys and others. By the way, Morgan Stanley actually started after I had come. That means their fund was December 94 or 93, I forget, but
I stand corrected.
I had already moved.
Yes, you're right. Okay. But the general thing was, can foreigners manage money in India? Is it going to be a cookie cutter sort of a process and risk management which will come in? Because you were very used to a very different type
of...
So
there also, they had tried to hedge themselves. It's just that the world conspired for me to get this profile. So what happened that we were supposed to do a joint venture with Unit Trust of India, Alliance and UTI. So it was called UTAM, Unit Trust Alliance Asset Management, UTAM they used to call it. And there I would have been the alliance rep.
You would have been the most Uttam guy.
But I would have been the alliance guy.
Okay.
Now, if that JV had gone through, I could not have grabbed the profile because there would have been some senior guy from UTI being the lead manager or whatever. Then UTI used to have a fight with SEBI in those days because SEBI was trying to regulate UTI. Yes. And UTI used to say that we are not subject to your rules because we are a outcome of Unit Trust Act of 1964. UTI Act of 64. So SEBI never gave approval to the JV. So then Alliance said, and then we started our own. So then I became the face because I had been there while this deal was going on for nearly a year. And then Alliance applied on its own and UTI anyway was there. But UTI also wanted to change its image a little bit. So they were tying up with a foreign company to say that some products in a year, 2 or 3 products, will be done with Alliance. Rest they would have done on their own. But to change their own, whatever style, whatever functioning, whatever, they were thinking ahead by saying that we tie up with Alliance. Because Alliance was one of the big AMCs in the world, maybe 8th, 10th largest in US. So they had done this. That also, I had no role in that, but I was Alliance's this thing on the proposed AMC, which if it had happened, my profile would have been lower, I guess. I don't know.
You mentioned a point about style. Okay. You are a self-confessed growth guy. But when you entered the Indian market at that point of time, as it is today, there are different styles of investment management. There's a value, which is momentum, quality. What was your take? Because you were looking at India not just from an India perspective, you were interacting with your global counterparts as well. So 2 questions in this. One is the style factor, if you will, India versus others. And 2 is the general capital market infrastructure. Where were we as compared to other countries?
I don't know about other countries because I was doing it from New York, but the Indian infrastructure was really bad. There used to be value sometimes to say that you will get 1 share for say 100,000, 1 certificate. So you need less signatures. Or you will get in retail, retail units so that you can sell gradually rather than selling in block. Sometimes the block would get a premium because you are getting it, or sometimes the block will get a discount because you are trying to sell it.
Correct.
And there were these brokers who were doing no research, but their main claim to fame was that they know the transfer agent, the guys to whom the shares have been sent for transfer, and they will get them back quickly from them. Otherwise, it take 2 months or 1 month. So, many times, I sold big quantities of shares, and then we realized that the shares have gone out for transfer, and they will not come back for 2-3 months. And then that broker, we used to put so much pressure on the broker. So they would run around, maybe pay something to those guys and get those shares in time, or maybe after one settlement for us to deliver. So,
it's interesting that you mentioned that. I'm just going to pause here. Most people wouldn't know about that. You talked about share certificate, you talked about transfer. Okay, so it used to take, settlement used to be 15 days.
And these shares, these shady managements would block the transfer in the sense that it would take 3 months for the shares to come back. And in those 3 months, therefore, say the float is less or whatever, something like that.
Now, it used to be quite frustrating when I used to send shares for transfer. After 3 months, it used to come with a rejection letter.
Sometimes the signature does not match. Correct.
That used to be good. So, I mean,
but those things, the thing is, since I was a fund manager,
it didn't affect you.
I didn't see them directly, but you were supposed to be careful in buying because the trader, we had a trader later, but once in a while I would directly put the order, and you are supposed to check all these things, that who is selling, is it clean share, is it a street share, is it transferred, is it in the name of the guy who's selling, because then there is more confidence that you can get a signature, repair, whatever, if it doesn't match.
And this was still the outright system at that time, right?
Yeah. So what happened, one guy came to me, because these brokers would do absolutely no research. And the guy would call and say, Grasim, नहीं, ग्वालियर का ये प्राइस है. ग्वालियर was Grasim. और टाटा का या स्टील का ये प्राइस है. टाटा स्टील. So the only job was to tell you price. Because there was this PTI screen, if you remember, where the ticker would go. And you just keep waiting to see your price of your stock coming back on the screen. So one guy said that I will install a radio kind of a thing in your room so you can hear the...
Can you imagine?
So I said, yeah, it's very complicated. Finally, we never got it, but we were thinking, because we have no idea
what is happening there.
Yeah. And the thing is, you would not know what price the thing was traded at. You will be given a price. So these things were all shady stuff.
So cut to markets today. Okay, vis-a-vis the global markets, how do we stand as a nation?
So another thing I should tell you. So at that time, when I came from US, I thought that my main job is somehow I have to beat this bloody market. And if I beat it by 1% also, I'll be hero. So at that time, the brokerage, if I remember, was either 1% or 2%. I think it was 2%. So I told my dealer, every time you negotiate with the broker, every trade you negotiate. So if you have bought 10 lakhs worth and the brokerage is whatever, 20,000, just say, no, not 20,000. Can you make it 15,000? Because, I did this, I lost here, I did something. And guy will say, chalo, 15,000. Or tell him, no, we'll give you more business. I said, you reduce by half 1%. That is our outperformance. Because rest can be same. Every trade we used to negotiate the brokerage, because in absolute, whatever is the brokerage, it won't be a round number first of all. Just say, no, 2 lakh hi le lo. Just har bari show me कि कोई 20,000 किसी के बचा लिए, 50,000 बचा लिए, छोटे-छोटे. So that was the formula. By the way, in the end, I beat the market by 32% per annum for 8 years. But thank God I didn't know this before. हमने तो 25 पैसे भी बचाए हैं in brokerage particularly. In the very beginning.
Yeah, I can imagine. I
think
great small things add up, especially in a bad market. These things really add up.
It was great fun in the sense that everything was some angle. Ab kya hai ki you buying a stock, the brokerage is pre-set, the order is pre-set, the trade settlement is... वो सब चीजें खत्म हो गई बड़े सालों से. That is the difference.
So, I'm going to keep repeating this entire global, local sort of thing because I believe you're one of the more unique people who've got a bifocal sort of vision. You looked at the big picture, and you can look at the local markets as well. So in 1997, when the Asian crisis hit the world, if you will, especially Asia, so this was a very different type of crisis.
Correct.
Which actually started happening.
From Thailand and all.
Yeah. So, and it was more or less imported to India. So give us some sense in terms of
what I remember is that first of all, India did not directly have any crisis, of course. And the markets also didn't fall apart. Because our currency was generally weak. We have had many such crises. We had the May 98 when US put sanctions on India because of our nuclear test and all that. So we had through all that. So before that is before the crisis, also India was not outperforming great. The formula in those days was to ignore all the companies that were in the, you can say in the index. Because they were these old companies fighting liberalization and opening up, and buy the new themes. The new themes were IT, this HDFC Bank type things which got listed, I think, in 95, then Z type. So our game was only compete with government. That was our main theme. Then go into sectors where they have been opened up, where private sector is now allowed in, and previously was not. And the state-owned guys are now having to face competition from these private companies, which are hungrier, leaner, meaner and all that, and pay more and can hire from the state-owned companies, but those state-owned guys can't hire laterally also MBA. They were. So us thesis में we made money in HDFC Bank and Z, and later on in insurance companies, and everything there was a government versus private. So, but in the Asian crisis because we were not buying the old companies, actually none of our companies, like HDFC Bank ties were still growing even in 97, 98, and maybe 40, 50% or whatever they were growing. So we didn't directly feel it. But that led me to move to Singapore. Because 98 में जब Asian crisis हुआ, तो Alliance के बंदे निकल गए सारे, जो सिंगापुर में थे.
Oh, अच्छा,
so then they were hiring a head of Asia because the Asian guy had left.
Okay.
So then I was moved to Singapore, and all the analysts were gone. Okay, the whole team had gone. So then we made, for the first time in Alliance, maybe in the world, we made our Indian guys also Asian analysts. And the new Asian guys we hired, we made them, they were Asian analysts, which means they're covering India. So after 98, we did not have any India dedicated analysts. We had 5 Asian analysts, including 2 were based in India. One was Dinshaw Rani, who's now our CEO. And all the 5 were Asian emerging market analysts. And in that period from 98 to 2003, that means technically we had 1 analyst. Because 5 analysts covering 9 countries.
Correct.
तो उसमें चलो वेटेज करके इंडिया का हो गया 20%.
Correct.
We became number 1 in India.
Okay.
But the Asian crisis led to this change of structure. Me getting to Singapore.
Interesting.
And overly not feeling bad about India because हमारे stocks में कोई वो नहीं था. In fact, because we were buying the new things. We mostly did not buy any of the older listed guys because they were all fighting with the government. There was a Bombay Club. They were trying to slow liberalisation.
Of course.
By the way, first fund, the Alliance Fund which I managed, I named the fund. It was called India Liberalisation Fund. That was the name of the fund.
Yes, of course, and it performed exceedingly well. I think.
And I did very well. That is the one which got all these awards. And then later on, it became, now it's called Alliance Bernstein Growth Fund or something. What a boring name. I had India Liberalisation Fund as the name.
You didn't have any income funds at that point of time in India?
Income fund, I don't know when we started. Our main fund was the
equity fund.
The balance fund.
The balance fund.
But I was
saying something about the balance
fund.
So
balance fund, it was a crazy fund. It went up 6 times. Because we used to have all these. But anyway, so we had a debt guy, Amitabh Mohanty. And I was a CIO, but basically I am interested in equities. So in those days, nobody would know what is inflation of India, what is the interest rate. I had no interest in all these things. So if somebody would say, what is inflation? I said, I don't remember. I remember reading in Economic Times, it is some 8% or 9% because it would come once a month. Now these channels have made this such a big news in life. So I was talking to the debt guy. I think it was this guy or maybe the guy before him, Vineet. So I said, क्या हो गया? He says, today's interest rate policy of RBI. मैं कहा फिर कहता है, there might be a 25 basis point, पता नहीं cut or hike or something. मैं कहा ये छोटी-छोटी बातों की फिक्र ना किया कर तू, क्या बड़ी फालतू बातें करता है? हम साले, we used to go, our Z went up 100 times in 2 years. Okay, it would go up 8%, which was the limit. Every day we used to just celebrate कि चलो आज हमारे number 1 holding is up 8%. और वो बीच में आके बोल रहा है that interest rate might go up 0.25% or go down. I had no interest. And this is in the 2000s with this excessive coverage and over-analysis. So those days were totally different.
Alliance 95 and, the genesis of Alliance 95.
No, so Alliance 95. So Alliance 95, by the way, all these interesting things I used to only lead because, these guys are very conservative and foreigner type. So I was trying to name it Alliance 94 because we were going to compete with Unit 64.
Achha.
So I had thought of a tagline, Alliance 94, 30 years ahead. Which obviously they were not accepting. It's not that anybody even gave it a serious thought, but I used to call it that. Alliance 94, 30 years ahead. To say that 30 years behind, Unit 64.
Good.
So, but what happened, the launch got delayed. So finally the fund got launched in Feb 95. So it got called Alliance 95. But the original idea, not only of us, I think of every fund house was that we have to somehow compete with or whatever, with Unit 64, which was viewed as a balanced type fund, but with obviously very different transparency and everything. For example, in those days, Unit Trust of India would give, I think, top 10 holdings every 6 months. And full portfolio once a year. And if the year is ending in March 31, you will get that full thing, maybe July, August. So I think we were the first guys to say that monthly disclosure hoga. Because I think the trend was that quarterly karenge. हमने quarterly करना है तो monthly कर दो, क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है? So we have put all this pressure on the mutual fund industry today of having monthly. So nobody in the world does monthly, I think. I don't think US also does monthly. I think they do quarterly, if at all. But we are doing now monthly because of
tremendous pressure.
Olden days of Alliance.
I remember I was on the other side. And I think the success of Alliance 95, was it the first balance fund in the private sector?
I don't remember. I think Birla...
No, we all came later. Birla balance was 99.
Was it 99?
Yeah.
So Birla main fund was 1 month before us. Which fund was that then? Maybe their equity fund.
Advantage fund.
Maybe they started the Advantage in maybe then ours was the first. I don't remember.
Because I think the success of Alliance 95 just brought up this entire category into focus.
Yeah. But it was up 27% per annum for bloody 10 years.
Plus,
it was too good.
Dividends. Regular dividends coming in, and every time anybody would come to us and say, you have a Alliance 95 ka jaisa product.
But those rates were crazy. I have invested in debentures at 27%. These were all these textile companies from Vardhaman and 27, 28%. Crazy it was. So then what to... But even then we felt like investing in equities.
Correct.
And would have only 20, 30 or 35% in debt and 60, 65. In the beginning, I don't even have a debt manager. But I think in maybe 97 or so, we had a debt manager
to manage just that. To give you an insight, because you were there, I can give you a local insight. 98 when RBI raised rates, they actually raised rates.
They did, okay.
So NAVs fell. We had just launched a liquid fund in 97. And Jan 98 mein interest rate raise kiya, NAVs fell, so it was a little bit of mayhem in the local markets. So I think you were some feet away from the local market, so that is
no, I was there only.
Maybe a different asset.
I was not bottom saying I had a great time in 98, 97. Like the NAVs of 60% or something because of IT.
Suddenly I'm feeling very envious.
That's why I don't remember all these crises of India because I had a rocking time in the 90s. So I saw recently an interview of some guy saying that it was a lost decade because the index did not go up. But everybody knew that the new guys have come and the old guys are getting impacted by this thing. So, but actually the maximum alpha, not only for me, for so many others, of beating the market by 10, 20% per annum was because you just, if you want to buy a little bit, but not a lot of the old guys. And all in the new. So it was not a lost decade. It was the transformation of the economy and market. So to be classified, that was a bad period. It was the best period in terms of actually also the growing of the market, the growing of new sectors, new companies, and performance of anybody who was a little bit aware that don't buy the...
You mentioned new sectors, but before I go to that, this is a very interesting point you talked about, active versus passive. In a way. You're saying the benchmark not moving, whereas the stocks giving a lot of alpha. There is a school of thought which actually argues about the fact that this could have happened in the past when price discovery was not as good. But today when price discovery is getting better and better, to outperform the index would be a little bit more difficult.
That I agree. But that time we were beating by 30%. Now we are saying beat by 5% or 4%. Okay. So obviously. Also, the second thing is that in those days there was no private equity. So like when I bought Z, the market cap was $50 million. So I just saw that in Thailand, some cable company or some media type company had a market cap of 200 million. I said, yaar, ye 50 million hai, wo 200 million Thailand market mein hai. So it was very easy. So, but now you will not be able to get a company for very low market cap because it will not go public at low market cap because the financial investors would be there. Separately, although these financial guys may not make money, but what they lose on is not going public anyway. And what they win on has a large market cap. So they also don't make much money in aggregate, but they have definitely disrupted the early buying of these. So obviously, it's not that it's the same as 19th. And also, new sectors which are not in the index, but if they're doing well, like the in China, maybe 7-8 years ago, all these fund managers had massive alpha because they would buy the tech or they'll buy the casino companies. And they were not fully reflected in the benchmarks because the benchmarks had oil, gas companies and PSU.
Correct.
But वो थोड़े दिनों बाद वो चीजें खत्म हो जाती है of getting new complaints. So that is the state here also, of course.
One interesting thing I think Alliance did start off, and I think that sparked off an entire trend in the industry, was thematic funds. I think Kothari was the first one with the IT fund.
They had done an IPO fund also. IPO fund. Two guys had done Kothari and Apple Mutual Fund. Both of them went to nearly zero in the end. Because many people ask me about IPO funds, I say zero jayenge, don't worry.
I just know about the pre-IPO fund which Standard Chartered Mutual Fund had launched around 2000.
Pre-IPO would mean
enterprise
unlisted.
Fund 50-50 kiya tha.
Achha, that I don't know. But IPO fund bhi the.
IPO fund. But Kothari had launched an IT fund.
Achha.
Okay.
Before? Okay, before.
That was everybody got into this. But I think you went one step ahead. You actually launched 3 funds together.
So what we did was, we made it the whole market. There was nothing left. We said, you can see our portfolio. We are overweight this. But now all the 3 which together would make up the whole market, which is basic industries, which is old economy mostly. The new millennium, which is the IT and media and TMT type. And the third is consumer pharma. There's no other sector left. So we said all the 3 are there, now your choice. So in the end, everybody put money in the tech fund. Correct. And they put the least amount of money in the basic industries fund. Correct. Just to give you the relative, I think IT fund they gave 500 crores and in basic industries 30 crores. And the middle one, Buy India, and I got that name because I knew there was a fund in Korea called Buy Korea Fund. So I उसको Buy India Fund कर दिया. So Buy India Fund was maybe 100 crores. In the end, the performance was basic industries was a rocket. So then people got upset with me later. Oh, you raised IT fund at the peak. I said, no. I raised basic industries fund at the bottom. But we said कि हमारे portfolio में ये है, अब आप जो करना आप करो. That was called the umbrella, I think, something.
And it's something like that.
Umbrella.
Because I think one of the discussions which used to happen, see, anything new which comes in, usually there's a lot of skepticism and competition, namely us, used to say कि अलग-अलग लेके क्या फायदा है? आपको एक ही portfolio में सब मिल जाएगा. But I think then they sparked off a completely different trend.
Yeah. The good thing is to save this thing, because if I don't know, remember all the discussions, but suppose we wanted to do IT fund. Good thing is we didn't do only an IT fund. We said, चलो मैं सारे कर दो एक ही in one PPM or whatever. Yeah. All 3 were in one.
Correct.
So what happened? One guy in one of these investor meets said, I invested in your fund. Basically, they were all critical of IT because it came near the peak. So I said, all the 3 funds had the same prospectus. All the 3 funds were managed by the same guy, which was me. All 3 funds had the same fee. Why did you choose one over the other? We never said. Because, by the way, it was also a rare thing to have same fund manager separately say that tech is good, separately say basic is good, separately say consumer pharma is good. But we never said it like that. That is why we survived. We said, iska ye plus hai, ye minus. Iska ye plus hai, ye minus. If you want to see our view, you can see our our normal equity fund and see our weightage in these 3. Now, if you so desire, you can add.
I remember Mangesh used to be there, Deepak Mangla used to be there, and there was a contest which was on. Guess the opening NAV of Alliance New Millennium. Yeah.
So it opened at I think 16 or 18.
15.76.
15 point something.
So that was.
And that was, I think it had to be closed for 1 month. It couldn't have happened in a week. Must have been in a month.
No, not a week. I think
3 months?
It was at least for a month. At least for a month.
Yeah.
Because
so we raised it in January and Feb end or whatever. Imagine the NAV is 15. Crazy.
Feb end.
I mean, the public has not seen bull run, but they haven't seen bear runs also. They have just seen.
Correct. So this was interesting. And I think you launched the frontline fund separately, right?
So that also I named because that time India Pakistan were having a fight and I think they were at the border or something. So इसलिए मैंने कहा कोई ऐसा नाम रखें यार कोई. So then I called it Frontline Equity Fund. ये नाम अच्छा ढूंढता था. So anyway, so that fund It had a brilliant strategy. So what happened was I realized that in 99-2000, the mistake that we made was not that our IT stock that we bought did badly. I mean, relative to the index. Of course, it did bad. But that we had too much weight in IT, suppose. So we said, अब क्या करते हैं? By the way, that I think literally might be the first in the world only, I don't know. हमने कहा हम sector weight नहीं bet करेंगे. We will not bet on the sector. Okay. Within sector bet करेंगे. So the sector weight has to be more or less plus minus the index weight. Now within the sector, whether I choose Infosys or उस वक्त जो भी था Satyam, that is an easy choice for every analyst, fund manager. But the mistake happens that you over invested in one sector or the other. So that's why this one was basically sector neutral. I think the difference allowed was 1.5% or something. And otherwise only bet on stocks within those sectors. So that fund in the end, Birla made it into, I think, very massive. I heard for 15 years they outperformed every year for 15 years because of this simple strategy, and then they reclassified it, and then basically
I think some reclassification from SEBI.
उसमें फंस गए, उसमें खराब हो गया, वरना the formula is good. But then when we started Helios, we said वही copy कर लेते हैं. But you don't feel like it's too constraining, so we didn't do it. But anybody else can copy it. But even though we thought of this, that is a guaranteed thing, easier discipline, easier control. But फिर हम natural stock market urges are not expressed in that.
I think one good thing which was there in that era is that there was this healthy respect for any competing player. So if there's a good idea out there, and I think it is even now it is, but at that point of time, the offer documents used to take a long time to get cleared. Achha. So if you've launched a balanced fund, then if successful, let's do that. So there was never this thing that we have to be pioneers all the time.
No, but another thing is now, because you can only do one flexi cap fund, so अब you have to bet कि am I going to be constrained वाला sector fund की normal वाला, तो हमने कहा नहीं यार, constrained वाला बड़ा मुश्किल काम है. But I'm saying otherwise little bit of this flexibility SEBI should allow कि दो तो करने दो, कोई थोड़ा variation with slightly different angles.
Basically truth of labeling में चक्कर हो गया.
Over हो गया ना फिर.
Over हो गया. जैसे
तो creative याद है.
I am a self-confessed thing here. There was a DSP Tiger fund which was launched.
अच्छा.
And I was in ING in around 2005. तो हमने बोला उसने टाइगर लॉन्च किया तो हम लायन लॉन्च करते हैं. फिर मैं लायन के बाद कब लॉन्च किया है. So I guess excesses हो ही जाते हैं, कुछ कर नहीं सकते हैं. Which is why regulation stepped in, saying truth of labeling. ये करो, ये करो, ये करो.
Otherwise, I'm saying this one because we thought of this while launching Helios. It should be take the frontline model, but we didn't.
Maybe I should do a session specifically on marketing in mutual funds one of these days.
In marketing, I was not doing the marketing, I was the face.
You were the face.
But face saved a lot of money for them. We were the most profitable AMCs. Okay. Never spent any money on advertising because shor sharaba karke I was.
So, then of course, you talked about 99, you talked about launching new funds, and then the dot-com thing happened. And I think at that point of time, there were a couple of tailwinds also, which happened in the Indian context. 54 EAEV came about.
No, that was before, I think. No?
Around that time.
Around
98, 99 ke aaspas tha, but 2000 is when it really, 99, 2000 is when it really picked up. And then, of course, this massive sort of dot-com mania, if you will, which happened. You were in the center of things at that point of time. Right? You were in Singapore, right? At that point of time.
99.
And you were in Singapore and you were looking at India. Give us some insight. What was the
conversations? The thing was that since our relative performance in India was very strong, so we used to be India's weightage in MSCI emerging market used to be 8% or so, and we were about 15. And Samsung Electronics weightage in the index was higher than India's weightage. Okay, because of free float plus whatever. Plus वैसे भी market. So, and we also did not have a strong view or even a positive view on India. So in my Asian reports, I used to say bearish and overweight. Because I would say Korea something and something, Taiwan something. India bearish and overweight. So we used to say कि हमें top down नहीं पता. But हमारा HDFC बैंक बड़ा अच्छा है, ये Infosys बड़ा अच्छा है, ये भी करके. So things like that. So it was in those days totally bottom up. Because of macro not being very this thing, and also if you remember there was a very nearly depressing period after 2000 till 2002.
Yes.
Because first there was the correction of this thing. And then 2001 September 11 came.
Yeah.
And usse pehle bhi something happened. And I think India, Pakistan, when they were at the border. So I remember this, that one guy asked me in one of these saying that, India, Pakistan might have a war or something. And so what are you doing about it? So I told him two things. I said, one, if there is war between India and Pakistan, let me assure you that your investment in alliance will be the least of your problems. And second, I told him that there is only one fund management company in India which is totally prepared for a war, because their fund manager does not even live in India. So but bottom line is, in those days, as I was saying, so alliance mein, because our India performance was good, we were double weight, but it had nothing to do with India versus other markets. It was that we had knowledge and more comfort in India, and our stocks were doing well, in that period. But otherwise, India was less than Samsung Electronics weight in the index, in the MSCI.
But in the India portfolios, in your growth fund, what was it?
So, usme, as I said, the one lesson became that our sector weights were off, which is how in 2002 we launched this frontline equity. We were the biggest NFO over the previous 2-3 years. And how much was it? 120 crores. I think. So 120 crores was the biggest NFO.
Yeah, because of the backstory.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So so that's what I'm saying to you. Those days were like this, and but from a investing point of view, that lesson was the main lesson, which we now carry even till now, which is don't overdo. Don't do a stock. And second, have an eye on the sector also. But we just didn't want the very tight constraint which we had put in the frontline equity.
Interesting. And of course, the whole boom turned to bust. Okay. 2001-2, you were saying one of the...
bust means ki, wo to 2000 mein ho gaya. 2000 mein ho gaya. But actually, we did very well because, see, the thing is, this 2008 bust is not the same as 2000. Because it is all how you magic. So in 2000, in the first 3 months, our NAV went up 60-70%. Correct? In 3 months.
Correct.
And in a diversified fund, it may have gone up 40%.
Wow.
And then it fell for some 30-40%. So minus ho gaya tha end mein, but minus 5-10%. Full year ki baat ho rahi hai. Not from 2000 March. People in the end look at calendar year. 2008, unfortunately, what happened to the world is it peaked on December 31 calendar, but actually January 8th of 2008.
Okay.
And fell full and then bottomed in March. So, and previous year, Helios NAV was up 103%, that is 7. And in 9, it was up some 100%. And then wo thoda shift ho jata. That means the market had peaked in June of 2007 and bottomed in middle of 8. So, pehla saal bhi thoda theek lagta, dusra bhi thoda theek lagta. Nobody would have bothered. Okay, you were down 10 and then you were up 5 or you were down another 10. Okay, theek hai, koi nahi. Ab wo kya hua? It went up, nobody, it fell 80, 60, 40%. So, 2000 was not that bad. When you look at it in the end. So one guy, by the way, because I met everybody, one guy at Cricket Club, CCI, said, I invested in your fund in March 2000. What will you do for me? This is public, huh? This is public. There are some 100, 200 guys organized by some banker, the bank, Citibank, HSBC type. So, कहता है खड़े होके कि I invested in your fund in March 2000. What will you do for me? I said, I will pray for you. What to do? So then I said, Alliance Capital started in India in 1995. Our office opens at 10 a.m. every day, or 9:30, and closes at 6 p.m. Why did you choose March 2000 to invest in our fund? So then I said, I will take 90% blame. Don't give me 100% blame. You found March 2000 as the first time to invest. So I could get away with this because overall was good. But beech mein somebody comes at a very wrong time. Ab kya kare? So then over time we realized that itne excesses nahi chahiye. That time I used to say, how dare the speculator make more money than my fund. Now I don't say these things. Pehle my competitive thing was not only another fund. Any individual in the country, how can he make more money than my fund? That was the aggression. अब वो थोड़ा एज के साथ कंट्रोल हो गया.
Age, experience, I think.
Whatever that, it doesn't work.
Life
And also I have learned that people don't remember the 98 to 99. We were up some 100. We were up 280% by the way in 99. The NAV of Alliance Equity Fund was up to 80%.
Awesome.
Okay. And 10 rupee NAV became 38. So 10 point something say. So, but kya hai, us waqt, while you're in the middle of it, it's down 20%, and for somebody it's down 40 also.
Correct.
The guy who came in March 2000, like this fellow. अब उसका हम कहते हैं हम क्या करें यार, weighted average देख लो आप कहीं.
But ये 10 रुपए का नहीं होगा, 9.40 का NAV होगा ना?
नहीं वो उसने, but we didn't start on December 199. I mean December 31, 99. Na?
No, I'm saying.
Yeah, initial NAV would have been 940, but that would have been in 98 period में cover हो गया होगा. I'm talking about 99 onward. By the way, I must tell you the story. So I went to meet Mohandas Pai. So this was in 99. I think Infosys was up sometime during that year. Maybe I went in 2000 early, मुझे याद नहीं. But it was up some 4-5 times. And I told him, how long do you expect me to subsidize your poor performance? कहता क्या हो गया? मैं कहा Z's of 15 times. यार दिन थे हमारी जिंदगी के. Seriously. वो कहता भाग जाओ. So that is the point. Those were rocking days and rocking NAVs.
One of the things you mentioned when you talked about this conference, when this guy asked you, you said it was organized by one of the distributors.
Yeah.
I think one of the key things which changed in this era, was the core base of IFAs. They were strong and they were getting stronger, but the organized distribution segment, if you will, the banks in particular, became very strong. And I think that formed a very core base of most mutual funds around that period, especially when the equity boom took off, right? So at a certain stage, do you think that the industry started focusing a lot more on institutions for AUM and left the building blocks of retail to distributors?
First of all, I was not involved in this. I would be taken to the conference, and I would not even know. एक बार तो मैंने Standard Chartered conference में, I said I thank you Citibank.
So it's a very heavy question.
Because every day, which by the way I've done now also, but I would do 5-day 5 cities. Okay. And in the evening, Deepak, because the meeting in the evening would go on till 10, and I wanted to sleep at 9 because morning 6 a.m. you're going to another city. So at 9 o'clock, the guy would say, oh, aapki conference call shuru hone wali hai, and pull me out from the thing so that I can go and sleep, kind of thing. But so I didn't know that. But all I know is that in equities, there was no institution kind of concept, because equities was debt mera kaam hi nahi tha. I was just on paper the CIO, but I was doing only equities. But in general, I remember this, that Citibank, I think the first company, first AMC that they took on for distribution was Alliance. Because of global parent connection or something. And I remember that these guys did a lot of supposedly training or whatever is the word of the Citibank and other relationship managers. That was the thing. But beyond that, in those things, I was not directly there.
Couple of things more I'd like to know from you is that I think 2003 onwards, there was an investor education campaign of sorts which started off. There was a lot more transparency which came in from SEBI.
Correct.
Going by your experience, I think the more the transparency, the better the growth of the industry. Is that what?
100%. 100%. And that actually is first transparency is because of the settlement. And so the NSDL and all that, Mr. Bhave ne jo karaya tha. Because wo sabse pehle transparency hai that your price that at which the trade has happened is what it happened and not जो आपको बोला गया है. So in the olden days, what was the word they used? Gala or something. That you might be trading at 10:20 और हमें बोल देगा उसमें कि 10:40 में किसी को पता ही नहीं of how to check that what was the. So transparency का first है कि whether the trade has happened. So I think it had happened before 2003 only. I don't remember exactly, but उसके बाद तो ट्रांसपेरेंट इतनी, अब तो इंडिया इज द मोस्ट ट्रांसपेरेंट बिकॉज यू गेट सेपरेट ईमेल फ्रॉम एनएससी, सेपरेट फ्रॉम द ब्रोकर. You get,
it's the most transparent.
I would think so, because in other markets I still don't get from the exchange or confirmation that this trade has happened. We just get it still from the broker.
Correct.
All these things. So I own funds in other countries. I don't get some independent third party or whatever you call them sending me a statement that this fund is owned by you.
Because that's the question I wanted to ask you. From 93 to now, that
is a lot of transparency on this part.
It's gone to the other extreme.
But that part is okay. That part is okay. Because basically what they've done, I think, is everywhere there has been a mini scam. Usko block karne ke liye. Suppose some broker did some trade, but his price was different. The exchange will report to you the price. Second, the broker did something, but he's sending you a statement saying that I have this in your account, but he has spent that money or is so depository will send you that this fund is there. These kind of things. I also, by the way, totally believed that in the olden days that these what were they called? The stock holding corporation. What was it called? All these guys used to own physical stock. I used to believe that there will be a scam there. Because I used to think if for 40 years these guys hold stock. Now the institution has been told that your 2 lakh shares are here. Who knows whether they are there or not there? Somebody has duplicated them, sold out.
Master game mein to
bada kam hua.
Correct.
Bahut kam hua. So all those were physically found when they moved to the demat, which was like...
it was a big thing. It was a big cleanup which actually happened.
And it happened without a very big hole being discovered that some employee 10 years ago had sold the shares and put in a photocopy or something. Something like that. Had not happened.
No, I think also, I remember Alliance was one of the first ones to actually support institutions like CAMS.
Actually, we were the first.
Yes, we were the first, right? HDFC Bank had 50% stake in CAMS.
That time it did not.
It not have that.
Later on, they may have got.
And I remember what a big difference it made because CAMS used to send these account statements of Alliance saying that, if I remember correctly, sent within 3 days. There used to be a stamp, a watermark, a rubber stamp there. Now that suddenly became the industry thing because if you remember, as per the offer document, we could redeem within 10 days. Now suddenly CAMS is saying that you're getting your money back in 3 days. That itself set a benchmark. And it was Alliance.
Yeah, that I know. I know that CAMS, because when CAMS had an IPO, I reminded them, Ki bhaiya, give us anchor. We were your in a previous job. We were the guys who started.
Just mindful of your time. I have 10 other questions, but I think students would have some questions now.
Good afternoon, sir. So, when you started in the mutual fund industry, I wanted to understand what was the thought process behind starting a fund and what were the steps that you took so that the fund performs over the industry average or the benchmark, so that your
nobody knows. So how I started means I got a job in a company which was into mutual funds, but I had to only take the bet whether I want to come back to Mumbai because I had gone specially to US to study there and try and get a green card and a job and all that. And then after that, the steps are, now we have our own mutual fund in Helios, so now we know the steps. But the steps are that it takes 2 years to get approval from SEBI. And you need a lot of people in the beginning, and it costs a lot in the beginning because you need to first have everybody from operations head to investment head, fund manager, research head, compliance, personnel, etc. And all of them you have to show to the world and have people who are very experienced. Other people won't trust money. And then the fees these days are very low. So the break-evens are after 3 years, 4 years. But after that, it's a very good business if you can reach there. But it's not that I was initially thinking myself how to do it. It was a set system. You just have to have the money. Previously, Alliance had the money. Now we have the money to do it. But it needs a bit of capital and ability to get people to join you, because in the beginning they may either want a very high salary or compensation to join because they are taking also a risk. So that is how this business works. But still, there are very few mutual fund companies in India, less than 50. If you type on Google, you will find, I think US might have thousands. So here it's still a very difficult license to get.
So since you start investing in India, so how do you see the evolution of Indian markets over the years?
So as I was saying in the main meeting, the Indian market has done very well over the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years in dollar terms. Because what happens in rupee terms, our market does well, generally been up 15% per annum, broadly speaking, index. But you lose 3% on the currency. So the Indian market is up some 10, 11% per annum over mostly any period. And the US market over the last 5, 10, 15 is higher than that. But 2025 India has done well. So India broadly has done well. This is including this year where it has done very badly, India. So this year is included in the 5-year number and still India has done very well. So now our bet is that if it was doing well for 5 years and 10 years and 15 years, what have we done wrong? Now it should not do well. But currently there is a slowdown. The earnings of IT companies is very low compared to what it was. So now we think that the rupee returns, instead of being 14-15%, will be 11-12%. But you will also lose less on this currency, although these days again a lot has been lost, but generally we would think that you will lose less versus the dollar. So the dollar guys will still make 11-12 in dollar, and the Indian guys will make 1 or 2% less, but the comparison is not with the 15% that you are making, but with the returns you get from fixed deposit or fixed income. So those returns have become less. You are supposed to get only 5-6% more than what those guys are making. Not that they will make 6 and you will make 15. So now since the 10-year government bond is at 6.5% and previously used to be 9.5%. So when it was 9, equity guys can hope to make 15. Now वो 6.5 है, तो you are not supposed to make 15. कोई हवा से नहीं आ रहा है ना. Whatever is the reason for the lower interest rate is the reason for lower equity return. So difference की बात हो रही है. You have no better choice. Whether the return is high or low, what else can you do? This is better than whatever else. Broadly speaking, that is the way to look at it.
Amazing session.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it. I think I had a fair idea of what to expect, but this entire episode, this entire conversation was way beyond what I'd expected. I think there was a lot of humor, a lot of wit, but more importantly, a lot of life truths. I heard you talk about the portfolios, the way you select them, and the way you look at industries. It's very difficult to be simple. And, that is why probably you are Samir Arora, simply Samir Arora.
And thank you so much for taking me down through my best years of my life, which I've really enjoyed more than even now. Although the one formula of life is to enjoy life.
Looks like it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And till the time we see you in the next episode, thank you from the team at MF Chronicles.